You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus. Happy anniversary week. I mean, I know I'm coming in late on this. Okay, we're coming in just I said I was going to do 5 episodes this week. This one's coming in a little later than you're used to. I was going to, get it all queued up so it would be out. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're here. We're doing it. Welcome. This is your buddy Ryan Singer. Maybe this is the first time you've ever listened to the program. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ryan Singer. I've been doing stand-up comedy for 23 years. I dated a woman who could shapeshift longer than that ago, and it sent me on a paranormal discovery, the likes of which I had never experienced before. I have since become obsessed since that night that it first happened to try to discover answers, to find out information, what happened. And once the materialistic paradigm shattered in that moment for me, and I began my slow transition toward becoming an idealist and someone who believes that consciousness is the foundation of everything. I didn't realize it at the time, but what I was discovering and figuring out for myself was that there is probably so much more in the universe, in the world, in my reality that is real and is possible that I never considered to be true. I considered these things to be fairy tales or folklore, interesting stories we can tell that maybe have some kind of moral message, stories that we tell children, representations, much like the gods represent the energies. Manly P. Hall, one of the great esotericists of all time, talks about how humans named these energies of the universe and we ascribed them duties and we labeled them and we began to worship them. And, here we are now, right? Thousands of years later. And some of us are, worshiping some of these gods a little too hard, you might say. But yes, so here we are. So this podcast has been going for over 11 years now. We're coming up on 800 total episodes that you can listen to. That will probably, I think that one drops on Wednesday of this week, which would be, February. Oh my God, it's 2/22 right now on the clock. So that'll be 252025 when episode 800 drops for you. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Wow, I can't believe it. When I first started this in 2013 on a supermoon, it was January 31st maybe, on a supermoon was when we launched what I then called the Mindcast. No, that didn't catch on. People were always confused. So I just acquiesced and called it a podcast. So here we are. Lots of things have happened since then. I have, my research turned into investigation, which turned into more experiences, which deepened and solidified my belief, and many more things than I ever anticipated. It all kind of started because I thought I had a lizard in my brain years ago, and I shared that with a woman on our first date, and she looked at me and she said, "You're pretty weird." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been hearing that pretty much my whole life." And she said, "Well, then I can share something weird about myself with you." And we were off to the races. And then that's how that whole thing started. Now, do I think there's an actual lizard living inside my brain? No, but that's how I would describe the sensation that I would feel at the time. I have just finished maybe my 4th or 5th edit on the comedy paranormal memoir that I'm, at least as of now, I'm calling Shapeshifter, a journey into late night jokes and later night mysteries, about my journey in stand-up comedy, which I've been doing for 23 years now. Oh, yeah. So I'll be recording a new special later this summer, which I'm pretty excited about, in Indianapolis. Anyway, I sent that off to a friend of mine. They're going to read it, give me some notes, and then we'll see what happens after that. And then we'll keep moving on the process. I'd like to read you an excerpt from that right now, if I can. This is just the beginning of the book. Maybe I'll share that, and we'll see if I like the way it sounds as I'm reading it out loud into a microphone for the first time. And if not, I'll just delete all of this. So here we go. The premise. It's not important that you believe what I am about to tell you, but it is important for you to understand that I believe it. More than that, I know it. If it helps, think of this as a story of transcending belief and embracing experience, no matter how whimsical or delusional it may seem. At the very least, it's a tale of achieving a new reality, a new perception of reality. The events that follow forever changed me and altered the course of everything I have done since they occurred and everything I will do next. But before we get to my metamorphosis, we start at the beginning, long before I dated a shapeshifter who turned my entire universe inside out. And listen, I know your instinct is to immediately pull back after reading that last sentence. Trust me, I can relate. Even before that happened, most people considered me a weirdo, and I own that label. As a 9-year-old, I ran around grade school trying to prepare my classmates for the rapture. I've told hundreds of people a lizard lives in my brain, and without warning, new characters can take over my speech and actions, whether I'm in public or not. When you view the world through a different lens than most people, they often push back and call you weird or strange and even crazy. I've provided plenty of ammunition for people to fire these labels in my direction over the years. I can accept people think I'm weird, and as an artist, I consider it a compliment. But my goal is that by the end of this book, you'll think I'm the most grounded and rational weirdo you've ever met. Nearly every time I've told anyone this story, including my closest friends, I've been met with what I call unbelieving eyes. We all know the look of a friend who is listening to your story, but they clearly do not believe a word of it as it comes out of your mouth. The eyelids flutter, expand, and the nose begins to wrinkle just above one side of the lip as the mouth and vocal cords prepare to fire off their reality rebuttal. It's impossible to hide. Our faces give us away. We can't hide our face. I've seen unbelieving eyes 1,000 times and counting, so I don't want you to feel like you have to hide your face as you read on. Just be you and do your best to withhold judgment of both of us. But if you can't, I still won't be mad at you, because I do get it. It's the world we live in. We are firmly entrenched in the material world, where the high priests and priestesses of yore have been replaced with the modern scientists, telling us what the reality of our world and existence truly are. I don't fight that. But just because I get it doesn't mean I believe materialism is capable of explaining all the mysteries of existence. I don't. So it's normal for the Times to want to dismiss me and my anti-structural ideas before even knowing my story. And I am asking for one huge favor from you, dear reader or listener, even if it's just for a moment in time when you read these pages. Believe the unbelievable. Trust me, it will be more fun that way. Please also know as you read these stories, there is not one emotion, argument, or alternative possibility that you will think of that hasn't already haunted my thoughts for years. Some of the events I'll tell you about have caused me such existential angst that I thought my best option was checking myself into a mental hospital. Rather than do that, I tried my best to dismiss them and at worst suppress them. In spite of those efforts, these experiences absorbed their truth into my being and forced me to figure out ways to integrate them into a new worldview. Now, I spend many of my nights seeking these experiences or researching esoteric topics until dawn, but I didn't start out that way. The first experience ambushed me, grabbed me by the shoulders, and shook me to pieces until I never thought I'd be able to put myself back together again. It is a strange and almost blissful moment to have awareness that your mind has been lost. It's hard to explain, but it's like being in two places at once, without separation, Maybe something like the bilocality scientists speak about. I was a particle and a wave simultaneously. Maybe this is how philandering men of the future will have secret families in two places at once without getting discovered. Before hearing how my reality was shook loose, you have to know what I was filled up with in the first place. Just like any good joke, the punchline makes no sense until you hear the premise. It's also very important to make you aware, if you are not already, that I am a stand-up comedian, and I make my living telling jokes. This includes, but assuredly is not limited to, exaggerating life experiences for comedic effect and making up entertaining stories for people's enjoyment. Even though I firmly believe that maintaining a sense of humor is the most important part of effectively communicating our beliefs, and I hope to do so throughout the course of this book, know that there is no punchline I'm holding back for the end, no big reveal when I get to yell, "Gotcha!" This isn't a prank, a gag, or a bait and switch I'm trying to pull over on you. I'm not trying to suck you in with comedy and dramatic imagery only to tell you it's a lie and you're a fool for having believed it. Yes, I am a comedian, and yes, there will be jokes. But these stories of my life and who I am are not a work of fiction, nor are they a joke. At least I really hope not. So that's the premise. That's the very first, that's the, I guess you would call it the introduction in most literary circles. We're going to be right back because it sounds like the music's here and we got to take a quick break. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month. You never have to listen to a commercial for the rest of your life on this program. So $3 or higher. You could be a patron for $3,000 a month if you really wanted to. I mean, I don't know, $333 a month. You could be a free patron as well. And you get free stuff over there sometimes too. We'll be right back after this quick break. It's anniversary week, baby. Okay, we're back. At least I hope you're back. I hope the premise of my book and me reading it. Now, granted, that is not the, what will probably be the final version. Excuse me, I had to take a sip of my coffee. My coffee there. And you probably recognized some things in that premise if you've been listening to this show. And one of them was how different voices or characters will take over my my thoughts and my speech and, my body essentially at certain times. I mean, Todd's one of them. We all love Todd here. I actually realized I commented something over on the Patreon. Someone commented and I wrote something, and then it wasn't until like a few days later I was like, well, that sounds weird what I wrote. I think I wrote something along the lines of, if there's anyone I'd want to put me in handcuffs, it would be Todd. And I was like, wait, that actually could be taken a few different ways now that I think about it, when we were just talking about, because Todd happened to know the corpus or the whatever, when cops have to read you your rights when they arrest you. Todd seems to know the whole thing somehow. Hey, man, I do know it, man. You have the right. No, Todd, we don't. We're not going to do that again. So what can you expect during anniversary week? I don't know. Maybe I'll read more excerpts. I don't know. I think the main reason I want to get this book finished and complete is because I want to share it with the world. And also because I want to do the audio version of it somehow. I'll probably read the audio version. I know my buddy Sam Talent had a great book called Running the Light. It came out a couple of years ago. He self-published, and then it blew up, and now it's getting like properly published. Although I don't want to say properly published. Self-published is proper published as far as I'm concerned. Let's not diminish the value of the independent artist here, writer and otherwise. And so I had a bunch of different comedians read different parts of it for the audiobook, that's a real fun idea. That's a real cool idea. Anyway, so I think we're going to have a couple interviews sprinkled in throughout the week. Also going to be some 30-year bonuses, which are solo episodes, which you're listening to right now. Throughout the week, I am going to be discussing and going over in greater detail For example, Dr. Stephen Greer put out another episode of his podcast addressing what's going on right now. There seems to be a lot happening right now, and if it feels that way to you, it's because it's true. Now, whether it's the dismantling of democracy happening in this country, or what's going on in the government, who fucking knows, right? But it doesn't seem to be. I keep seeing all this messaging about a shadow government trying to dismantle the structure. And what a surprise that someone who owns a space company, Elon Musk, who is also having a big hand in this, the moment disclosure is getting ready to come out, right, as we're fighting for disclosure against a shadow government that has been, the defense contractors, essentially. It's the defense contractors. It's these billionaires who make money from warmongering and reverse engineering off-Earth technology for their own purposes. The military-industrial complex doesn't want disclosure to happen. So now you have the dismantling of apparently the federal government, and it's so. Are those two things related? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to tell you that, and nor do I. I mean, if I could somehow be awake and never have to sleep, and always have great optimal energy to be able to read and watch everything that ever happens that pertains to this, I would do it for you. I would do my damnedest to try to, distill this information in a way that is understandable, accessible, and doesn't disempower you as well, because I don't want you to feel disempowered. If the Egyptian Spring taught us anything from 17 fucking years ago, whenever it was, or does it feel that long ago, or am I getting that? I might be getting the year wrong. Anyway, if all of us there's too many of us. Okay, there's something. Here's comfort and community on the macro level. I want to express this, that. There's times where it can feel dark and we can feel powerless. We can feel, that there is no hope in the future. But if every person who wasn't a billionaire, because, there are a couple thousand billionaires, I think, at least on the planet. But guess what? There's billions of us who are not billionaires, right? So if we all just walked outside and decided, not going to do it anymore, all at the same time, guess what? Everything changes in 24 hours. You know what I mean? And people mistake anarchy for chaos when in fact it's not chaos. It's just the absence of, distinct hierarchies. So, as the middle class gets evaporated by the wealthy, we sit here and wonder, well, what can we do? And the answer is, there's a lot we can do. We can take care of each other. We can focus on the positive while not being blind to the negative. These are important things. You don't want to have, the phrase toxic positivity, right? You hear that a lot. And, I'm not going to lie, I don't love that phrase, but it is a thing. You can't be, I'm not telling you what you can or can't be, by the way. There's this, this is such a layered discussion. It's so nuanced about, soul contracts. What has a person decided to do before they come into this life? Reading this book, it's very interesting because, and when I say reading this book, I mean the thing I wrote. And I had to do a major overhaul of it because I wrote this in 2019. And as you know, a lot of things have changed. And I've had a lot more experiences since then, but my perspective has also changed. I almost feel like I'm not the same person. I wasn't the same person. And, and I know I think it was on Jessa Reed's podcast that we talked about this, where she thought I may have dimensionally been swapped out, or I may have died in that experience in Florida in 2019, potentially. Now there's a different dimensional me here now living my life, my doppelganger, my interdimensional doppelganger. Now, reaping all the rewards of all my hard work and my credit card debt. Now, talk about jumping into the wrong guy's body financially. Now, although, what's great? It's all invisible. It's all made up, and it's none of it matters. Okay. So actually I'm enjoying this. So even if I am a different me, I'm enjoying the hell out of it, because this is quite the life, right, that I'm living. So I've got no regrets about any of that. But what was I talking about? Oh, soul contracts. And I think I've talked about this, but it's probably been years because I forgot about the exact language about it all. And that was this. My soul contract, according to one of my favorite people that have ever, walked the earth of this, tiny blue dot floating through space, hurtling through space, spinning through space, is Sarah Goff. And, the shamanic Reiki healer who has done incredible things for me. Now, one of which, on the first time we ever met, without her knowing anything about me, told me what my soul contract was. And boy, oh boy, it kind of blows my mind when I think back on it. And by kind of blows my mind, I mean it totally blows my mind. She said my soul contract that I signed before I, manifested or iterated or materialized, before I shot through the cosmic uteral canal or vaginal canal. I was a C-section baby. That's why my head is, perfectly round, but not trying to brag over here, and God bless my mom for, birthing me. I love my mother, and you should too. Anyway, my soul contract was to build a bridge between the believable and the unbelievable. And here's where it gets tricky, because another component of that soul contract for me was I'm building a bridge between the believable and the unbelievable in this life. And I'm not supposed to pick a side. And boy, oh boy, what a smack in the face. We're going to talk more about soul contracts and that when we come back. This is another break. We got to keep the lights on over here in the mind cave. And, we're just doing our thing over here. So we're going to be right back. Thank you for listening. Happy 11-year anniversary. Thanks for the messages. I truly appreciate everyone who reached out. It touches me. It touches my heart. So thank you very much. We'll be right back. And we're back. I am drinking coffee. I'm loving my life. We're talking about my soul contract and the wonderful, incredible Sarah Goff. I need to get her back on the program. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to reach out to her as soon as I'm done recording here. I'm going to see if she can jump on the microphone this week. And we'll do that and see if I can't get a last second. She'd be great for the anniversary week here. I've got some other exciting things. Potentially, maybe they'll happen, maybe they won't. We don't know yet. But regardless, this is what a thrilling week. I mean, 11 is such a beautiful number. And I know there's a lot of 1111 heads out there. So yeah. So we're talking about my soul contract. And I've been drinking coffee. If you notice the uptick in the speed of the voice, you did not hit time 1.5 speed on the podcast app, or 2 times the speed on the podcast app. This is just me being activated. I'm like MK Ultra if caffeine was the government, you know what I mean? Or if coffee was the government, hit the button. And I'm like, okay, I've been activated. MK Ultra Delicious. MK Delicious, I think, is the secret mind control program that I'm under, and it's the bean. The bean is in charge. The plant, the coffee plant's in charge. The flower, the bud. Anyway, so I'm not supposed to pick a side. And when I read that, I didn't, you can have these amazing things and experiences and these profound realizations, and you can get information from people who have been to the other side of death. And now they have an open line of communication with the spirit guides and the entities and the universe that is beyond the physical realm and physical matter. And we can forget because we have so much other stuff happen until we're reminded. Then we remember, and yes, it becomes a clear memory again. Because I do have false memories, and I'm going to reference this a bunch probably for the next week or so, just because I've been reading it and working on it for about a month now, all the edits on this book. So forgive me if I keep going back to it, but it's so I haven't been reading any other book other than I finished Humankind by Rutger Bregman, which I can't recommend enough. So now I can actually start reading again because I'm done reading this thing. Anyway, I can't pick a side, and that slapped me in the face with a remembering, because boy, oh boy, have I been picking a side. I have picked It is like if anybody in this world has made their stance more clear than me about materialism and versus idealism, I don't know who they are necessarily. I mean, I have cohorts in this. Do not mistake what I'm saying here. There are people I am friends with. There are people I know who are all in on consciousness and idealism. And we are just with reckless abandon floating through the world that is consciousness, right? And we don't need to know all the details because we feel it, right? We feel this truth. But it might be time for me to get one of my feet back on the ground on the other side for a minute. Because you can't build a bridge unless you're connecting both sides. And if I'm supposed to be building a bridge between the believable and the unbelievable. And what's so amazing to me about that, like I said, Sarah had no idea who I was when we met. I mean, she knew I was coming in, obviously, but she didn't know I was a comedian who did a bunch of jokes about, Bigfoot crystals and all this other stuff, and consciousness. She didn't know that I had a podcast about the paranormal but when we met, at least probably 5 or 6 years, I'd been doing the podcast. Because I think we probably met 6 or 7 years ago. I can't remember exactly, but she didn't know that and it nailed me. And now, and then I have an experience. I have an experience with Dr. Rebecca Foster in Florida the last time we were there, where she said some things because we were measuring her brainwaves at the time. Dr. Jeffrey Tarrant and I, I was filming it, and it was just the three of us, and we needed her to go into psychic reading mode to see the differences in brainwave patterns. And so since I was there, she did a very, very short and started doing a reading on me for less than 10 minutes. And then she said some shit that just was like, oh my God, this is bonkers. But yes, keeping, myself out of the side picking business, that's not easy for me because I'm a woo-woo wild one, as you know, and it is very difficult for me to not pick a side when it comes to I am full disclosure. I don't think that's what that means. Full disclosure, 100%. Let's, if it was up to me, I would put dynamite at the base of the dam that holds the disclosure waters back. And I would just blow it up. Let's flood. Let's have a disclosure flood. In my opinion, that's what we deserve, and that's what we need as just human citizens on this planet. But so that was a big slap, like back into reality of a remembrance there, not picking a side. That is my soul contract. And you might be asking yourself, well, Ryan, do you believe that in fact you signed some energetic form of your consciousness or, embodiment of you signed the soul contract with like a quill pen or something? And it's not important how you envision soul contracts get signed. And it's not important that you believe soul contracts are real. I do believe that I went into some kind of binding agreement with my spiritual self that I would do my damnedest to become aware of and stick to an idea of accomplishing something bigger than myself, outside of myself, while I was here in physical form this go round. Because I definitely believe the multiple go round thing. To me, we're going to look back on this one physical life, then you go to heaven or hell kind of thing. We're going to look back on that, in like 100 years, people are going to be like, people believed that? Like, people believed the earth was flat, even though we're back to that somehow. We've got people. Someone told me the other day there's a comic who doesn't believe that space is real. I heard that, and who knows? I've never talked to them about it, so I don't know what gets them there to think that, but I'm guessing it's probably some kind of flat earth dome conspiracy or idea, theory kind of thing. Anyway, So we're going to be looking back in 100, 150 years and being like, people thought there was a place called hell. When in fact, I wouldn't, I used to muse that maybe hell was this, right? And that birth was going to hell and death was actually finally being released from its grips. And that was when I was in a darker place back then, probably, when I used to tell people that hell's being born, man. And then finally you're released from hell when you die. So you don't go to hell when you die, man. You finally get freed from hell that is this physical existence. Everything sucks. That was like that guy. I was that guy maybe. I don't know why. Maybe because I drank more and did drugs. Or maybe it had something to do with all the cigarettes I was smoking. I don't know why I thought that. 2.5 years since I've had nicotine. Feeling good about that. Anyway, sounds like we have another break coming up. I need to move. I'm going to scoot that back a little bit. We'll just do one commercial actually right here. The first 2 breaks will be like the full commercial breaks, and after that, we're just going to do the short little ones. So just hit that fast forward button once, and once or twice, you should be clear on all this. You can hit the fast forward. You don't have to listen to the ads. I hope you know that. But Patreon, patrons don't have to listen to the ads if they pay $3 a month. Or $1 a month. You get 1 or 2 a month, I think, free. And the free people, you don't even have to pay me money to be on the Patreon. I'll see you over there, and we'll be right back. And we're back. A reading from The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I think what I'll do this week as well, as far as anniversary week goes, I will be reading like short little snippets from some of the books that have profoundly affected me in the 11 years. And I may have read this one even before the Mindcast started. Khalil Gibran died in 1931. He was a poet, philosopher, and artist born in Lebanon. Anyway, yeah. So, Claude Bragdon said, his power came from some great reservoir of spiritual life. Else it could not have been so universal and potent. But the majesty and beauty of the language with which he clothed it were all his own. Clothed it, whatever you want to say there. And there's illustrations in this book, too, and they're reproduced from the original drawings of Khalil. Al-Mustafa, the chosen and the beloved, who was a dawn unto his own day, had waited 12 years in the city of Orphalese for his ship that was to return and bear him back to the isle of his birth. And in the 12th year, on the 7th day of Elul, I'm saying that incorrectly, I-E-L-O-O-L, Elul, or Elul, in the 12th year of the 7th day of Elul, the month of reaping, he climbed the hill without the city walls and looked seaward, and he beheld his ship coming with the mist. Then the gates of his heart were flung open, and his joy flew far over the sea. And he closed his eyes and prayed in the silences of his soul. But as he descended the hill, a sadness came upon him, and he thought in his heart, how shall I go in peace and without sorrow? Nay, no, without a wound in the spirit shall I leave this city. Long were the days of pain I have spent within its walls, and long were the nights of aloneness. And who can depart from his pain and his aloneness without regret? Too many fragments of the spirit have I scattered in these streets, and too many are the children of my longing that walk naked among these hills, and I cannot withdraw from them without a burden and an ache. It is not a garment I cast off this day, but a skin that I tear with my own hands. Nor is it a thought I leave behind me, but a heart made sweet with hunger and with thirst. Yet I cannot tarry longer. The sea that calls all things under her calls me, and I must embark. For to stay, though the hours burn in the night, is to freeze and crystallize and be bound in a mold. Fain would I take with me all that is here, but how shall I? A voice cannot carry the tongue and the lips that gave it wings. Alone must it seek the ether, and alone and without his nest shall the eagle fly across the sun. Now when he reached the foot of the hill, he turned again toward the sea, and he saw his ship approaching the harbor, and upon her prow the mariners, the men of his own land. And his soul cried out to them, and he said, Sons of my ancient mother, you riders of the tides, how often you have sailed in my dreams. And now you come in my awakening, which is my deeper dream. Wow, what a fucking line. Ready am I to go, and my eagerness with sails full set awaits the wind. Only another breath will I breathe in this still air, only another loving look cast backward. And then shall I stand among you, a seafarer among seafarers, and you, vast sea, sleepless mother, who alone are peace and freedom to the river and the stream. Only another whining will this stream make, only another murmur in this glade, and then shall I come to you, a boundless drop to a boundless ocean. I mean, I could just keep reading this. I could just read this whole book for you. A boundless drop to a boundless ocean. You know, I often muse to myself that, are we the raindrop or are we the bucket, right? And, ultimately we're just both. We are the raindrop and we are the bucket, and we're the water that collects inside that bucket. But you read a book like this, and I don't know if you've ever read it. I'm guessing you probably have. It's an epic book, and it's a beautiful, oh gosh. Anyway, the one I have is from, I don't know, it's over 50 years old because there's an inscription. I've read from it recently. It was a Christmas gift in 1971. To Eva and Josh from Jean, Helen, Evan, and Warren. And, oh, goodness gracious. It's just so damn beautiful. But you read a book like this, and, well, when I read a book like this, my first thought is, what business do I have writing a book? How dare I think that I should even be writing a book? I mean, you read this and you're just like, oh my God, right? That's the initial reaction. And then the second step for me when reading something that is so profoundly beautiful is, first is like, oh my God, right? Second is, what business do I have even thinking I should do something like this? And I'm not comparing my book to this, by the way. Third is, oh my God, it's inspiring. I hope to, someday achieve, 1% of the greatness of this thing that I've been witness to. And even a 1% achievement in such an endeavor would be something really damn good because of how great this is. So for me, that's when you know you're in the presence of something great. You're initially in awe. I experience awe. Then I go into, oh my God, I could never do that. And then I go from that into, God, I have to try to do that. So that is what inspiration is for me, right? And also the idea of success. I don't know what you've designed success in your life to be, but I hope that you have been in control. And if you're not, you can be, by the way, of defining what that success actually is and will be for you, and even has been for you. You can change the past by just reframing your appreciation of what you've been through or what you've done already. And that affects the present and also affects the future, right? I mean, it's kind of like the inevitability of curiosity that we've talked about on here. The 5 stages, there's the believer, the researcher, the investigator, the experimenter. Why am I forgetting the 5th one? You have the experiencer, you have the researcher, the investigator, the experimenter, and the believer. Okay, so yeah, that's 5. And so, and you can start at any one of those 5 points in this circle, right? Of curiosity when it comes to the high strangeness or the paranormal, supernatural, but and any prolonged dedication to to any one phase of that will inevitably lead to the other four phases. Seemingly, it's a working theory, right? Is it scientific? No, it's a spiritual theory. I suppose we can call it that. So for me, it's the same way when it comes to like inspiration and awe and these other things that make us who we are, and actually even reframe our ideas of who we were and what we will be. And because I do think that if time is in fact a flat circle, like True Detective is going to say, like there's a physical space, right? If time can be seen, if it is a dimension. Something interesting just happened here. Oh, anyway, sorry. Like the tassels on my athletic pants, like magnetized together. Anyway, but they didn't. They just kind of stuck together in a weird copper tip thing lodged into the. It doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm talking about that. Maybe I need to focus. Where's my thinking stone? I'll just grab this shungite pyramid instead that I have on my desk. So, these, if we can look at time as being a physical space, right? Then we can look, we can start to reframe how we think about all kinds of things, and the possibilities open up for all kinds of things. If, verbs can actually be places, and places can be verbs, that try to wrap your brain around that one for a minute, right? I couldn't sleep last night, and all I was thinking about was like, because I was thinking about the closeness of the words alter and alter, E-R and A-R. Both of them signify great transformation, or the potential for transformation or metamorphosis, right? Or transmutation. In the Catholic Church, the altar is where you perform the ritualistic, act of transmuting, bread into body and wine into blood, etc. And then alter, E-R, is to change something, right? Is to fundamentally change it, transform it. So those two words, and I haven't looked it up yet because I've just been having too much fun for about a week thinking about them, how closely they are spelled and how their meanings also are so closely intertwined, without having to, really dive into the etymology of the words. I'm just trying to see if I can stumble upon figuring it out, that they most certainly derive from the same Latin word or Greek word or some other word. They come from the same word, most assuredly, at least in their English language iterations. But I just don't want to spoil that yet for me, so I haven't looked it up. Alter and alter, right? One is a verb, one is the place, pretty much of the same exact thing. And, all my witches know exactly what I'm talking about out there. So we're going to be right back. We got another little break here, and we shall return, my friends. And we're back. I think you're back. So yeah, these are probably going to be, that'll probably be the last commercial break on this one, and we'll probably wrap it. This won't be over an hour long, but anyway, so we're talking about alter, talking about transformation. We have to think outside the box, I think, on some of this. And also just a heads up, after I'm done with all this, I'm going to be deep diving into some things to be giving you some, kind of real-time updates about the UFO, UAP disclosure and everything that's happening with that. And, whether it's Immaculate Constellation, the retrieval program. I mean, we've had other whistleblowers starting slowly but surely starting to come out. Unedited versions of interviews are being released. What does it all mean? And, also, can we try to, what can we do to feel like, at least specifically in the United States right now, how can we feel like, it's not just the complete, like, depending on what point of view you subscribe to politically in this world. Are you a fear-based person, or are you a love-based person? To me, that's what it comes down to. More progressive policies are love-based because, in fact, maybe you do make yourself a little more vulnerable when you don't try to build like the biggest wall in history around the country to keep everyone out. Why do you want to keep everyone out? Because you're worried about people taking your stuff, right? Which no one's going to do, by the way. And unless it's the super wealthy, they will take your stuff. The super rich will, in fact, come and take your stuff. Meanwhile, they will make you think that it's the migrant worker or someone coming into this country looking for a better life for them and their family. They're not going to take your stuff or commit crimes against you, right? It is, in fact, being done and has been done by the people above you on the wealth ladder and has been that way forever. So anyway, are you love or are you fear? What do you project into the world and what do you buy into the world? And you can be a love person and not be blind to bad things that are happening. The Los Angeles fires, the biggest wildfire in any metropolis area in the history of the United States, I believe. The city of Los Angeles has come together to try to help each other out. And there's great devastation. Many people have been displaced. And we're doing our best out here to try to, stay positive and contribute. And, it's been beautiful to see that happen. Simultaneously, you have all kinds of things happening politically that are jarring and shocking, and we don't know what's actually real. I mean, how can you be an expert in any and all of this stuff simultaneously? It can be difficult. In the meantime, you have UFO disclosure happening at a pace that hasn't been seen in years, or at least, let me say that differently. It hasn't been seen from official, quote unquote, official authority channels in years. There have been whistleblowers and there have been experiencers who have been coming out about their experiences and the truth of these things for decades and decades. And the world didn't want to really listen to them. When I say the world, I mean the majority of people who need some kind of authoritative official channel to actually finally believe something or accept something as real that changes the paradigm of what reality is. But we've had that for years. There's a Whitley Schreiber. Why am I having trouble with his last name? My buddy Daniel Noah, who's been on the show, is conducting a talk with Whitley at the Philosophical Research Society this Friday night, and I'm so excited to go watch that and sit in the crowd for that amazing experience. I can't wait. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, you can scroll through the feed and you'll be able to see me. I'm sitting in one of Manly P. Hall's chairs that he gave his lectures in on stage at that same place. And you know how obsessed I am with Manly P. Hall and love his lectures. But so that's there. You can see that. So I'm always super excited when I have a chance to, go there. Which has been, what have I been there once? It's crazy that it's been in my city, and I don't know. I've always felt a little intimidated to go there, to be honest with you. You got to get over that. We all have our things. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that. But once we start listening more, opening our minds to possibilities that they were once closed to, we expand our worldview. We live in a bigger world, and oftentimes we shake ourselves a little bit afterwards and be like, why did it take so long to do this? Have you ever done that? You try something new and you're like, I love this. Why did it take me so long to do this? And or why did I think this wasn't something I should be doing? And or how come I never heard of this before? God, if I heard about this 20 years ago, my life would be different now. We can't live in the past. We just have to accept the moment and embrace the things in the present that actually bring us the joy. Joseph Campbell says you need to find your joy stations. I agree with that. Find your joy stations in life: paranormal research, investigation, exploration of mystery and curiosity. These are joy stations for me. Stand-up comedy is probably my foundational joy station. Time with family is also a joy station for me, and friendship and fellowship. These are joy stations. I think people can relate to that. We all have these. We all have very similar joy stations. Good food is a joy station for many of us, etc. The beach, seeing lizards. I went to the LA Zoo. I saw a giraffe. I didn't get to hug the giraffe. Someday I will fulfill the dream I have of hugging a giraffe, becoming best friends with a giraffe, being able to talk in giraffe, having a giraffe understand what I'm saying. I'm almost crying right now thinking about how beautiful it's going to be when I am telepathically communicating with my best friend, the giraffe, whatever its name might be, or wants it to. Maybe it doesn't have a name. Maybe giraffes are so more involved than us, which is likely spiritually evolved than us, much further probably along the line, that they're like, we don't need names because names are separative tools that disconnect us from the all that is, that we happen to be also a part of. And I'll be like, oh, I love that you said that, George. And George will be like, my name is not George. Please stop trying to name me. And I'll be like, I'm so sorry, George. I need names because I'm a simpleton. I'm a spiritual simpleton, and I love naming things. That's what happened in the Garden of Eden, right? We started naming things, and everything went to shit. Everything went to hell. Anyway, I think it was Bernie Taylor was telling me that his conversation with someone was like, we get into a problem when we get attached to things when we name them. And if the goal, as Buddhists would tell us, is to be free, just to free ourselves of attachment, maybe we shouldn't be naming things. So maybe this podcast shouldn't have a name anymore. The Nameless Podcast. I guarantee you, someone has a podcast called The Nameless Podcast, and who knows what it's about. The first image that comes to my mind is very likely it's about maybe John Doe's or Jane Doe's or missing people, or who. It's sad. That's a sad thing. Nameless usually has, if something is nameless, it usually has sad or negative connotations to it for some reason. But maybe we need to flip the script on that. Okay, I think we're going to wrap this baby up. That's going to do it, I think, for this episode a Monday of anniversary week. 11 years, almost 800 episodes in the digital can. That you can listen to. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like I said, we're going to be having updates on breaking disclosure news this week. We're going to probably have some interviews popping in, maybe some of the local yokels that you hear on the program. And in the Me and Paranormal You neighborhood, there are a few people who are always hanging around on the street, and so you'll probably hear from some of them this week as well. I love you. I hope you love yourself. Thank you for listening. Tour dates are at ryansingercomedy.com, being posted more and more each and every few days as we build out this tour so I can record a new comedy special. That'll allow me to, retire in Boca Raton or something, someday. I'll never retire. That'll never happen. But okay, so until then, I'll see you tomorrow, I guess. But if I don't see you at a live show, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.